I know the real. You know, a lot of times people be blinded by what they see in these videos and on TV, but I just know. I know what I know, man. You know what I mean? It's a lot of people that ain't being righteous and they ain't keeping it infinity, because keeping it 100 ain't enough. That's a limit. You go with me, you got to keep it infinity. So it's just a lot of people, man, that's just, selling their soul and selling themselves short and distracted with the wrong things. So, it is what it is, man. This industry is a very evil industry. You know what I mean? Like it's very evil, man. So you got to really surround yourself with people that think like you or bigger than you. So it's a nice amount of, I ain't gonna even say nice. It's a lot of rappers that sold their soul, and they let money dictate everything they do.
You've probably heard the phrase selling your soul thrown around in hip hop, but what if it's not just a metaphor? Houston legend Lil Flip, the man who made millions without a major label, says he's seen things that would make most artists walk away forever. He claims powerful figures in the music industry tried to spiritually cleanse his home, but what they really wanted to do was something far darker. He refused, and according to him, that decision came with a price. Flip says he's watched other rappers, people he knew personally, change overnight after signing major deals. Fame, money, success all came at the cost of something much deeper, but here's the question. If so many rappers are selling their souls for fame, who's really buying? Because behind every viral hit, every flashy video, every overnight success, there's a system built to control artists and silence anyone who dares to say no. And now that Lil Flip and Dee-1 are speaking out, the industry's darkest secrets may be unraveling. But are they telling the truth, or exposing something we were never meant to hear? When Lil Flip sat down and boldly declared that he's one of the few rappers who never sold his soul, it wasn't just a catchy line, it was a warning. Coming from a man who sold over 25 million albums independently, his words carry a different kind of weight. He wasn't bitter, he wasn't ranting, he was revealing something that most insiders only whisper about behind closed doors. Flip explained that the majority of rappers today aren't in control, not of their image, not of their music, and definitely not of their message. He said the industry operates like a recruitment machine, searching for young, hungry artists, people hungry for success, fame, and validation. They're handpicked, molded, and marketed as the next big thing, all while becoming pawns in a much bigger game. According to Flip, executives deliberately target these artists before they understand their worth. They're promised luxury cars, expensive chains, and instant fame, but in return they give up ownership of their creativity, their values, and in some cases their very identity. He described the pattern like this: they want one from every major city, one artist that kids can look up to and imitate. That way, they can control an entire generation. And when you really think about it, doesn't that sound a little too familiar? The same type of rapper, the same lifestyle, the same message, just with a new face every few years. Flip wasn't vague about what's going on. He called the industry very evil. Not metaphorically, not symbolically, he meant it. He said it's filled with people who value money more than human life, people who will manipulate, deceive, and destroy just to maintain control. What's even more chilling is how calm he was while saying it. Like a man who's seen too much and already made peace with what he knows. But it's not just about greed, it's also about power. Power over influence, over image, and over culture. Because as Flip revealed, once you realize that fame comes with a cost, it's already too late.
Bro, I've had gatekeepers in the music industry who have literally tried to hold a record deal behind their back and let me know, like, look, if you're a part of this homosexual act that I'm trying to take part in, you hear me? Yeah, come on, this door open real quick for you. Like, I got a song where I've talked about that before called The Devil's Playground. Like, this is real, dog. And the only way that type of stuff can work on you is if you let them have all the leverage to where you want what's behind that gate that bad.
If Lil Flip exposed the system's darkness, Dee-1 named it out loud. The New Orleans rapper, celebrated for his integrity and sharp-witted lyricism, didn't just talk about corruption, he described how it personally tried to consume him. According to Dee-1, gatekeepers exist at every level of the game. If you're trying to get signed, there's a gatekeeper. If you're trying to get on radio, There's a gatekeeper, even interviews, gatekeepers. But the part that truly shocked people was his confession that these gatekeepers sometimes test your morals before handing you access. He revealed that one industry figure literally tried to trade a record deal for a special favor. The offer was blunt, the temptation direct. Do this and this door opens fast. Dee-1 said that moment became a life-defining test, a point where he could either sacrifice his manhood for fame or walk away with his soul intact. He refused. Instantly the tone changed. The opportunity vanished. I knew right then, he explained. I wasn't getting signed that day, but I was keeping my dignity. That rejection came with consequences. Dee-1 admits blackballing in the industry is real. He's felt it firsthand. After turning down unethical offers, certain insiders stopped returning calls, projects fell through, and doors quietly closed. But instead of folding, he doubled down on faith, saying, "If you don't feed me, you can't starve me. God holds all the keys to what's meant for me." He also described a more subtle, sinister kind of control, the lukewarm trap. It's when gatekeepers tell you you're making too much righteous noise, tone it down and you'll fit in. At first it sounds harmless, but as Dee-1 warned, that's how artists are slowly taught to dim their light, not by force but by persuasion. They turn fire into silence, passion into compliance, and before long the whole industry starts to look the same. Safe, bland, spiritually empty. But that wasn't the case for him. He chose resistance over reward, purpose over comfort. The price, limited opportunities. The reward, peace of mind and the ability to look in the mirror without shame. If standing for what's right costs you everything the world calls success, would you still choose integrity? See, what both Lil Flip and Dee-1 revealed isn't random. It's not just about shady people doing weird things behind the scenes. It's a systematic blueprint, a method designed to break artists down and rebuild them into obedient, marketable products. Here's how it works. The industry doesn't just wait for desperate artists to show up, it creates them. They keep talented musicians struggling for years, rejecting their demos, ignoring their independent work, and making sure their names never get the recognition they deserve. Why? Because desperation breeds compliance. When a young artist finally gets that call, that big opportunity, they're already mentally worn down, hungry, vulnerable. And that's when the offers come, the promises of fame, the trips to exclusive parties, the so-called spiritual mentors. By then, the line between faith and fear blurs. The artist starts to rationalize, maybe it's not that bad. Maybe this is just part of the game. And once they take that first step toward compromise, it's over. The system doesn't need to threaten you when it already owns your silence. The scariest part? This isn't about one artist or one generation. This is the same formula used for decades. From the golden age of hip-hop to today's streaming culture, labels push destructive messages not because they're authentic, but because they sell. They invest millions into rappers who glorify chaos and violence while ignoring those spreading knowledge and positivity. Even Dee-1 pointed this out, saying that the industry has no problem signing a new street rapper every year, but they act like they can only handle 2 conscious rappers at a time, Kendrick Lamar and J. Cole. Everyone else, they're ignored, buried, or blacklisted. He said it best. They'll say, "We got enough of those already." You realize how crazy that is? They'll say, like, "We got enough positivity, but we can never have enough ignorance." That's the chilling truth. They don't just allow chaos, they manufacture it, because a distracted culture is an easy culture to control. And that brings us to the next uncomfortable question, one that the industry hopes you never ask. If the system can build desperation so easily, how much of what we call success is really just manipulation in disguise? Now that you understand how desperation is engineered, here's where things get truly disturbing. Because once the industry identifies an artist with influence, someone whose voice could shape millions, that's when the gatekeepers step in. Lil Flip and Dee-1 both describe the same pattern, even though their paths were completely different. These gatekeepers operate quietly. You won't find their names on label rosters or streaming charts, but they hold real power. They decide who gets the radio play, who appears on TV, who gets invited to the big shows. And the scariest part, access isn't about talent, it's about obedience. Dee-1 explained how these so-called gatekeepers approached him with offers that had nothing to do with music. They weren't asking for a verse or a feature, they were offering deals in exchange for favors. Some of those favors were spiritual, others deeply physical, all of them compromising. He recalled one even saying, "This door opens real quick for you. If you're part of this act I'm trying to take part in, just take that in for a moment." A major artist, respected, talented, independent, being propositioned to sell not his music, but his morality. And when he refused, the doors slammed shut. Lil Flip faced the same thing, but in a different disguise. He says people literally tried to send someone to his house, a so-called spiritual cleanser, claiming they could pray for him and get spirits out. But Flip saw through it. He refused. He said, "I keep God and what I got going on. I don't need your spirits in my house." That right there is strength most people don't have in this industry, because saying no in a system that feeds on compliance isn't just brave, it's dangerous. Artists who say no to these backdoor offers often face blacklisting, their radio spins dry up, their publicists vanish, their collaborations mysteriously get delayed. Suddenly their careers seem to stall, but it's not coincidence, it's punishment. And here's where the hypocrisy hits hardest. These same gatekeepers who claim to stand for creativity and free expression only open doors for those willing to dim their light. If you speak too boldly about God, community, or self-ownership, they'll tell you to tone it down, be more palatable, be more marketable. That's their polite way of saying, be less real. As Dee-1 put it, they don't always ask you to do something crazy. Sometimes they just ask you to be less righteous. That's how they win. Not by forcing you to sell your soul all at once, but by convincing you to rent it in small pieces until there's nothing left to buy back. But this raises a serious question for us, the audience watching all of this unfold. Would you have the strength to say no if millions of dollars in fame were on the other side of that door? When an artist refuses to play by the rules, the industry doesn't just walk away, it retaliates. And the first weapon they use, reputation. The easiest way to destroy someone in the public eye isn't to prove them wrong, it's to make people stop taking them seriously. We've seen it time and time again. The moment a celebrity speaks out, they're labeled crazy, difficult, or washed up. It's not an accident. It's a coordinated discrediting strategy. Lil Flip says it plainly. This industry is very evil. You gotta surround yourself with people who think like you or bigger than you. He knows how the system works. Once you start telling uncomfortable truths, suddenly you're no longer a legend. You're unstable. You're not a veteran, you're irrelevant, you're not an independent thinker, you're unhinged. And this tactic isn't new. History is full of artists and visionaries who were ridiculed before being proven right. Dame Dash once called people like Lil Flip and Dee-1 prophets, men who saw the game for what it really was and refused to kneel to it. But the machine knows how to twist that into mockery, because the industry's biggest fear isn't exposure, it's credibility. Think about it. If tomorrow one major rapper with mainstream reach confirmed everything Flip and Dee-1 said, the entire system would collapse overnight. So instead, they neutralize threats with ridicule. The formula is simple. 1. Brand them as crazy. 2. Paint them as bitter or jealous. And 3. Slowly erase them from the spotlight. And it works, because the public rarely questions why an artist suddenly disappears. We just assume they fell off. But as Flip himself said, success is subjective. You don't see these independent artists on TV because no one's spending millions to keep them visible. That doesn't mean they failed, it means they chose freedom over control. They're touring, building communities, mentoring new artists, and giving back. But you won't see that trending on Twitter. The mainstream doesn't celebrate integrity, it buries it. Still, there's one thing the industry can erase: influence built on truth. You can take someone off a playlist, you can shadow ban their interviews, but you can't silence a voice that speaks directly to the people. Because while the mainstream laughs at crazy truth tellers, real fans listen. And that begs the question, why does society easily laugh at truth until it becomes undeniable? Behind every spotlight in Hollywood, there's a shadow. And that's where the real deals are made. We're not just talking about contracts and royalties here. According to artists like Cat Williams, Dave Chappelle, and now Dee-1 and Lil Flip, there's a darker, more manipulative layer that controls who rises, who falls, and who disappears. Over the years, Cat Williams has hinted that Hollywood runs on compromise. You want fame? you give something up, you want to keep your integrity, you pay the price. And it's not always money. Sometimes it's reputation, relationships, or access. Lil Flip echoed this sentiment in interviews, suggesting that there's a kind of unspoken agreement in the industry. Some call it gatekeeping, others call it selling out. But Flip frames it differently. As a test of spirit, he said, they test you to see how far you'll go. If you won't play along, they'll play you out. And that's where artists like Dee-1 come in. A man known for refusing to compromise his morals for fame. He raps about authenticity, community, and faith in a space that rewards materialism and conformity. Dee-1 isn't chasing the same dream everyone else is, he's challenging it. Jaguar Wright, who has also spoken openly about industry secrets, once mentioned that people like Cat Williams and Dee-1 are walking reminders of what happens when you say no. In her words, the machine doesn't like rejection. Now, none of these claims have been verified. They're based on insider accounts, rumors, and years of whispers from those who claim to have seen too much. But one thing is undeniable. Every time one of these truth tellers speaks out, something strange follows. It might be a scandal, a sudden smear campaign, or a quiet disappearance from major platforms. And just like that, silence. Because when you go against the grain in Hollywood, it's not about what you say, it's about who you're threatening by saying it. These industries are built on image and control, and truth tellers throw a wrench in both. So maybe the question isn't, is there a hidden system, but rather, why do those who speak about it always face the same fate? And yet, the irony is the more they try to bury these voices, the louder they get. Every canceled show, every deleted post, every random controversy just feeds the fire of curiosity. Because here's the truth, if you were really crazy or irrelevant, no one would bother silencing you, so what are they so afraid of? When you step back and look at everything Lil Flip and Dee-1 revealed, the fake promises, the gatekeepers, the spiritual manipulation, and the forced silence, it paints a picture that's way bigger than just the music industry. This isn't just about rappers signing bad deals or artists losing control of their image. It's about a cultural system, one built to manufacture influence and control belief. Think about it. The artists who glorify violence, greed, or chaos are pushed to the front lines with billion-dollar marketing budgets. Meanwhile, artists who talk about self-worth, faith, or community are buried under the algorithm. That's not a coincidence, that's engineering. The industry doesn't just sell music anymore, it sells behavior. Every beat, every lyric, every viral trend plants an idea about what's cool, what's normal, and what's worth chasing. And when that message is repeated enough times, it starts shaping entire generations. The real danger isn't the existence of evil in the industry, it's the apathy of the audience. Because if the masses don't question what's being fed to them, the cycle keeps running. And the gatekeepers don't need to hide in the shadows anymore. They can operate right in plain sight. What Lil Flip and Dee-1 represent is rebellion, not against success, but against manipulation. They're proof that it's possible to thrive without surrendering your soul. They show that you can make money, build fans, and inspire people without letting greed rewrite your morals. The bigger picture is this: the system only works if people stay blind. The moment artists and fans start seeing the pattern, the machine loses power. That's why the independent movement is so dangerous to the industry. It gives power back to individuals. It says you don't need to bend to the system to be seen. You don't need to sell your soul to make an impact. And you don't need gatekeepers to validate your worth, because at the end of the day, every artist has a choice and every listener does too. We decide what we watch, we decide what we stream, we decide what wins. And when we stop feeding the system that rewards destruction, we start building one that honors integrity. This isn't just about music, it's about what kind of world we're allowing entertainment to build, and whether we're brave enough to demand something better. Lil Flip's message isn't just a rant about the industry, it's a warning, a blueprint, a mirror held up to a culture that's been hypnotized by fame, blinded by luxury, and deafened by noise. He's not just talking about the people in power, he's talking about us, the listeners, the supporters, the ones who decide who wins and who fades away. Because in the end, every view, every stream, and every purchase is a vote for the type of artist and values we want to see rise. Flip made his choice years ago. He refused to play their game. He said no to the rituals, no to the fake promises, no to the shortcuts that require losing your soul just to gain a seat at their table. And look where he is now, still respected, still independent, still connected to his community, and still keeping God at the center of everything. That's real longevity, that's real power, and that's what the industry fears most, artists who can't be controlled. The question now isn't whether the music industry is corrupt, that's been proven over and over again. The real question is, what role do we play in keeping that system alive? Are we rewarding music that uplifts, inspires, and builds people up? Or are we feeding into a cycle that glorifies self-destruction and moral decay? Because the truth is, the devil doesn't always appear in red horns and fire. Sometimes he shows up wearing designer shades, sitting on a record label board, smiling while signing another deal. So ask yourself, if the price of success was your peace, your soul, your integrity, would you still pay it? Lil Flip and Dee-1 made their stand. They proved it's possible to be successful, spiritual, and self-sufficient all at once, and now it's up to the next generation to decide whether they'll keep following the same broken blueprint or start rewriting their own. The industry may own the airways, but it doesn't own the people. And if we start choosing authenticity over illusion, integrity over image, and substance over spectacle, then maybe, just maybe, the music will start healing instead of harming. So what do you think? Has the industry gone too far to ever be redeemed? Or is there still hope for a new wave of artists who value soul over sales? Drop your thoughts in the comments, and let's keep this conversation going.